Yeah, that's quite the statistical anomaly for sure.
What's going on, guys? My name is Diller. We're back with another podcast. I am back with my co-host Clemente. He wasn't on the show last time, but now he is. Can you go ahead and tell us how you've been, Clemente?
Man, I've been good. I've been good. It's been a minute, Diller. I think it's been a while since we've done a podcast. First one of the season. That time of the year where everybody's optimistic about their club and how where they're gonna end up going. But yeah, very, very exciting times. Especially, as you guys know already, I'm a Rangers fan. They had quite the off season. I think they spent over $500 million. And so it was just nice to see, the Rangers whip out their money instead of penny pinching and rebuilding like they have these last few seasons.
Mm-hmm. We should probably go ahead and jump into that. I mean, you as a Rangers fan, your overall thoughts on those signings, and then also trading Gallo when it was kind of weird. We talked about it before the podcast. Why would you trade Gallo when you have a year and a half left of him before a contract year? When you have the intentions of winning because you signed Simeon and Corey Seager.
Yeah, it was a weird move. I brought this up with the Athletics' Levi Weaver, who covers the Rangers for them, and the explanation he basically gave me was that the Rangers wanted to bottom out and strengthen their farm system again by bringing in prospects, and I guess the front office didn't want to give Joey Gallo, who, let's face it, Joey Gallo's great right now, but I mean, if you're projecting the type of career Gallo's going to have, he's probably going to be one of those guys that flames out pretty quickly because of his body size and his strength and all that. So I guess the Rangers, from that perspective, were like, you know what, we really like Gallo, but we're probably gonna spend a ton of money this off season. And they probably just felt like, yeah, there's probably not, they probably won't be able to afford handing out like three massive contracts in one off season, like in the same like less than 2 year span. So that's the explanation I got. It doesn't really. It's still. I still don't totally agree with it. I mean, like you said, like if you're ready to contend, I mean, the Rangers right now, the Rangers' expectations for this season is probably to finish around 500 because their pitching rotation isn't the best. I mean, John Gray is their ace, but but if you plan on contending within the next couple of seasons, I feel like Gallo probably helps you out with that a lot because I think I was like what 27, 28. Even with his struggles in New York, he's still been like a top 50 hitter for a few seasons now. So you want that bat in your lineup. But yeah, that's the explanation I heard, and I'm kind of over it now because of the fact that they brought in Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Like I love Gallo. I don't need to repeat that because I've said it multiple times. Diller knows that firsthand. I love Gallo, but Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, like Corey Seager, one of the best shortstops in the sport. Marcus Semien had a top three, top two MVP finish last season. Like those guys are just in a different stratosphere in terms of like impactful players. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad the Rangers, because for a while there, the Rangers they kind of were directionless as to whether or not they're going to rebuild or not or compete. They're just kind of doing both at the same time. And whenever you do that, regardless of the sport, it kind of you know takes you to the middle and you're just kind of stuck there. But it's good to know that the Rangers now have like a definitive direction as to where they're going as a franchise, and it appears that they're ready to start competing. Maybe not, probably not this season, but in the immediate future.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Um, yeah, I'm honestly happy because I'm a Yankee fan. I'm extremely happy that Marcus Semien is out of the AL East. That man tortured the Yankees last year. I mean, every time that he came up to the plate, you're like, oh, what's Marcus Semien going to do? Is he going to drive it over the fence? Is he going to bring a runner home? Is he going to get a leadoff double or whatever it is? He was always producing, and he always played good defense too. So um, definitely weird that the whole Gallo trade that happened, really weird. I'm not complaining as a Yankee fan, although a lot of Yankee fans are kind of on the fence with Gallo. I still believe in him. We're kind of on the same page with a lot of this, with like the hard hit percentage and BB percentage, walks a lot, takes a lot of pitches, barrel percentage. Eventually, his luck's going to straighten out. You know, it's baseball. It's not going to happen forever. It's not sustainable to have that bad luck continue for the rest of the season. So I wanted to talk to you about the Corey Seager deal with I was gonna say John Madden. That's the wrong John Madden. Joe Madden. Joe Madden, the Angels manager, deciding to intentionally walk Corey Seager. What were your thoughts on that?
Dude, that was wild to see because I think the stat says that it's only happened like what 4 times in like nearly 100 years. I mean, it's happened to Seager, it happened to Josh Hamilton, surprisingly with the Rangers against Madden as well when he was the Rays' manager back in 2018. And then of course everybody knows that Barry Bonds won as well. So it was just wild to hear. I think Madden's explanation after the game was that he wanted to, I guess, inject some motivation into his team and try to get the juices flowing. But yeah, I like Corey Seager, but like man, to give him the Barry Bonds treatment in April of all games too, where it's still less than 2 weeks into the season. It's not a win or die type situation. It was wild to see, but hey, I welcome it, man. Like if more managers wanna walk Corey Seager with the bases loaded, then go on ahead.
Yeah, I don't know did you see Mike Trout's reaction whenever they intentionally walked him?
Yeah, he was a little bit surprised to say the least.
Yeah, Trout was like, "What is going on? Like, why are they intentionally walking him?" Yeah, basically, like you said, I mean, Madden's intentions. These are quotes where he said, "Avoid the big blow, stir the group up." He said, "I thought by going out there and doing something like that, the team might respond." And I'm just like, that's a wild reasoning to go out and intentionally walk someone and give up a run. Like, your team should be fired up every single day to win games. They should be wanting to compete every single day. You should not have to intentionally walk someone to get your team fired up and motivated to beat, the Texas Rangers or whoever you're playing. You don't need to do that. That's just honestly, I mean, it paid out. It paid up in the end. It paid out in the end. But how many managers are going to do that? I mean, how many managers can you think of would do that at this current moment in time?
I guess just Joe Madden, because like I said, it's only happened 4 times in like the last almost 100 years. So very out of the box thinker.
And this is actually a stat that was brought to me. I don't know it by memory, but I'm pretty sure this is what it is. If I'm not mistaken, in MLB's history, there have been, I think, 6 bases loaded intentional walks. The team that ended up intentionally walking whoever player that was with bases loaded won every single time. I mean, how crazy is that to think about?
Yeah, that's quite the statistical anomaly for sure.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. I mean, getting the Barry Bonds treatment. I remember when I saw that, and I wasn't watching the Rangers game at the time, but I do all the Twitter stuff, post everything. And someone was like, "Yo, you should check out the Rangers game. Corey Seager got intentionally walking the base loaded." I'm like, "Huh? Like, what are we doing here?" Like, and then I was like, "Oh, it's the Angels. Okay, this is one of Joe Madden's another brilliant schemes that he's coming up with to do what. I mean, like I said, it paid off in the end. So did it really matter in the end? No, but at that moment in time, it was a huge head scratcher, and the reasons that he gave were, somewhat ridiculous, if not pretty ridiculous. But another thing that you want to talk about whenever we were, writing the sketch or writing the scripts and stuff to figure out what we want to talk about because there's so much that's happened, you wanted to talk about Kershaw. So kind of give me your thoughts on the whole perfect game that Kershaw could have had but was taken out of the game.
Yeah, that's a nice segue going from talking about one manager making a questionable decision that got public backlash to another. I mean, for those who don't know, Clayton Kershaw was perfect through 7 innings, I believe in his last start, not the start before that. And I think he was like on 70, 80 pitches, somewhere around that range. And then David Roberts ended up pulling him out. I just remember seeing that all over my timeline that day on Twitter, and people were just super upset, saying like, "How could you do this? There's only been a handful of perfect games throughout the entire sport. Like, he took away, Kershaw's opportunity to, make history." And I guess Roberts' justification as to why he did it is because, Kershaw's, the last few seasons now, he's getting up there in age, and you can clearly see that with the amount of like IL stints he's been on, and and considering that the season's like a little over a week old, he didn't want to push it with his 34-year-old starter. But like, even then, it's it's that. I mean, I would have. I know everybody. The public opinion is that he should have left Kershaw out there, and I tend to agree with that. I mean, like I said, there's only been a handful of perfect games throughout the entire sports history. So if you're already done with what the first 7 innings, and you only need two more to go, I would have just let him go. Like even if you want to manage his pitch count, knowing that there's a chance that you could risk some sort of injury. I mean, I would have let him done it. I know Kershaw backed up Roberts as well. I mean, which isn't surprising. I mean, Kershaw's 34. He's been doing this for a while now. He probably knows how it works when it comes to like speaking to the media and like public perception. So I would love to hear what Kershaw's actual thoughts are, behind closed doors, because I feel like it would be a little bit different compared to what he said to the media.
Yeah, I was actually going to say it's pretty interesting you said that because I did pull up a quote whenever he, not behind closed doors, but when he was talking with the media about the whole deal afterwards. And basically what he said, talking about the perfect game, was that those are selfish goals and we are trying to win, and that's really all we are here for. So,
Oh my God, that's such a boomer quote, Kershaw. He's really showing his age with that quote.
yeah, I can definitely see. I can definitely see both sides of it, just from Kershaw's, standpoint. Just because he's getting up there in age, father time kind of is knocking at his door a little bit. Although I don't want it to, but it's inevitable for every player in the league. Eventually, your time will come. And Kershaw also, the one thing that I didn't realize, because I do follow the league, but I didn't know this bit of information, is that he actually was hurt, was dealing with an injury, and hadn't thrown a ball until January. Now he had done one sim game, if I'm not mistaken, and he hadn't gone more than 6 innings, let alone 7. So that was kind of his reasoning why he didn't go out there. But on the flip side, I also do feel like it is a bummer. You know what I mean? Like, it's a huge bummer that he wasn't able to finish a perfect game, because I mean, how many perfect games are there? I mean, pretty much at this point, perfect games are more rare than a World Series championship. I mean, more teams have won a World Series championship than perfect games have been thrown. So, um, another thing that I want to talk to you about real quickly: did you see the Buxton injury against the Boston Red Sox?
No, tell me about it. He got injured again.
Yeah, unfortunately. And then you know what? That comes with the territory of everybody claiming he's made out of glass and stuff like that. So he ended up suffering a right knee injury. He said that they will be able to get an or somebody within the Twins media said that he was going to get an MRI. I don't know what the MRI showed yet, but I do know that knowing Buxton's past injury report, it can't be good. I mean, he basically he slid into second base from what I saw, and it was very clear that he was in pain, and he like slapped the dirt like on the ground, and I'm like, that's not good. Like if someone is really slapping the dirt, pounding their hand on the ground after an injury, that usually means it hurts pretty bad, and it's probably gonna be pretty bad once the results come in. So it sucks. It really does, because Buxton is one of those guys that you never want to see hurt. You want him to play 162 games every season. I mean, he's a very exciting player. And the fact that the Minnesota Twins, an organization that struggles to keep viewers outside of, obvious Twins fans, when you have a player that goes down like that, it's a huge backbreaker. And it's a huge backbreaker for the league, too, because he's one of those players that MLB loves to post highlights of. And for a good reason. I mean, he started off the season with 3 home runs, 4 RBIs, a one OPS over 1, and almost a 200 WRC plus. I mean, the guy is great, and he's great at defense, too. He runs the bases well. He's quick. I mean, he's what you consider a 5-tool player. I mean, he's just good at everything he does.
Yep, and I think they just signed him to a contract extension too. That doesn't kick in until I think next season. I'm sure this knee injury isn't going to be something that's going to be like career altering, but like you said, I mean, it kind of adds up over time when it comes to like how often Buxton misses time because of injuries.
Yeah, it really sucks. It's just, you don't want to see a guy injured like that. You never want to see anybody injured, period. But especially not a guy that puts up those kind of numbers and generates that kind of hype. Like I said, for the Twins, I mean, at least now the Twins, they do have Carlos Correa, which still weird watching him in a Twins uniform. It's still can't get used to that. As well as you probably know, Gary Sanchez, not a Yankee anymore. He's a Twin. It's a different team offensively, and they also have Gio Urshela too. But yeah, besides that, just Buxton's just never a guy that you want to see hurt. You want him to play every game. But I wanted to talk to you also about some of the bench clearings. I don't know if you've seen two of the bench clearings that have happened recently. There was the one against the Mets and the Nationals, and then there was the one against the Brewers and Cubs. I'm not sure if you knew anything about those or not.
Yeah, I wasn't one because someone got hit with a pitch. I'm pretty sure that was the one that was on my Twitter feed the other day, if I'm recalling correctly. If not, you can just explain to me because it feels like most of these end up happening for very similar reasons.
Yeah, they pretty much are the same reason. So the Mets and Nationals one, Lindor got drilled. I don't think it hit him in the head, but it hit him like in the whatever you call it, the mask guard area on the helmet, whatever you want to call that. But you know, it was. I mean, it's scary. It is extremely terrifying, whether you meant to hit them or not. And I hope to God nobody's intentionally trying to hit anybody in the head because you could kill somebody by doing that. But at the end of the day, if the ball is going up by your head, that's terrifying. That's scary. You know, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to get hit in the head, let alone see it. But Cishek ended up hitting him. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the Mets obviously did not, think too kindly of it. And Buck Showalter is extremely angry defending his players like he should. Obviously that he should be doing that. It mostly started because it was a tense game the day before where 3 Mets were hit, including I'm pretty sure Pete Alonso was also hit in the head area too. So that's kind of why Buck Showalter was like, can you guys stop, hitting our guys in the head? Like, why is it 2 games in a row that you've hit 2 of our guys in the head and then you've hit 2 other hitters? So I get it. And then to kind of, base off your point where you said they're kind of happening for the same reasons. The other one happened for basically the same reason. It was the Brewers and Cubs. Wilson Contreras, he got hit. Kind of does the same thing that Rizzo does. When Rizzo still does it with the Yankees, but he did it more when he was with the Cubs. Was basically, he's hugging the plate. So it's much easier for a guy that's hugging the plate, to get hit when he has that kind of, game plan. So what ended up happening was Wilson Contreras, because he hugs the plate so closely, ended up getting hit. He's gotten hit a lot of times by Brewer pitching, and then several other guys got hit too. And then the Cubs ended up hitting McCutchen later in the game, and they were like, well, why are you hitting our guys? Or McCutchen was like, why are you hitting me? And the Brewers in general kind of had a cow with it. But then the Cubs' reasoning was, we keep getting hit. Cubs hitters keep getting hit, especially Wilson Contreras, and that's why they threw at him, which... I don't agree with ever throwing at someone. I think it's really dumb throwing at someone. You can really injure them, if not kill them, if you hit them in the head properly. And, that's terrible to think about. And the other thing is you're giving these guys a free pass. Sometimes these things can happen when it's a close game. And there's no reason for it. You know what I mean? So, what are kind of some of your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the times whenever there's like a bench clearing incident, like the ones you mentioned, it feels like it's more about it's more of a straw that broke the camel's back than it is about that incident by itself in the vacuum when it comes to the reasoning for it. These guys play against each other 3-4 days in a row consecutively. So if there's bad blood during the first game of the series, it's probably gonna be carrying throughout the rest of the series. And it's basically, a ticking time bomb whenever it comes to situations like these. And it really feels like, that most of these bench clearing brawls all happen because of similar reasons where one player from one team or one manager as well thinks that the opposition did something disrespectful, and then vice versa as well. So yeah, it's not surprising to hear what the reasoning was behind these two.
Yeah. So moving on now, did you hear 2 of the separate calls that Matt Vascarin messed up on? I don't know if you heard about some of the calls that he kind of called too early or got wrong in the first place. I don't know if you know much about that.
I was waiting for you to tell me on the pod so you can get my live reaction.
So the first one was, he said, I quote, high drive to right, not quite, because it was an Ohtani. It was a 2-run home run fail, the home run that never happened, because Matty V got really excited and thought it was going, into the opposite stratosphere, but ended up being a fly out right at the wall. And then just the other day, actually against the Rangers, because the Angels and Rangers have been playing each other, lately. There was I think it's because Matty V and I can't remember his name, but he's a good broadcaster too. That helps Matty V, the side guy. But I think that they're not even in Texas. They're actually watching the game off a relay feed, and because of that, the feed is late whenever they're commentating it. So there was an incident where not only did he call a home run like 3 seconds after it was over the wall already, which is an issue where I'm like, we need to get these broadcasters back in the game. You know, they need to be there because it obviously messes up with communication and stuff like that. But the other thing was there was a Jared Walsh home run. And he said he thought it was fouled away, and then he goes, check that, it's hit well, and the other way it's gone. For some reason he thought it was foul. So I don't know. It's not like it's not anything like groundbreaking or anything. People will pick fun at Matty V for kind of messing up with whether it's him just getting super excited and wanting to see Ohtani finally hit his first home run, which now he's hit 3. Thank you very much, Clemente, for having the Angels or having the Rangers spark both Mike Trout and Ohtani's season. Because now
I've been hearing a lot of that.
Because they're like going off now. Trout got his first, Trout got his first home run back against the Marlins, but he's starting to heat up since then. He got a home run dead center against against the Rangers. Keep saying the Angels, but playing the Rangers. And then Ohtani's had 3 home runs in the last 2 days. He had a multi-home run game the other night, and then last night he also had a home run. So yeah, thank you for that. I know you're probably not having fun with it. The Rangers, I think 2-5 right now. I wanted to ask you about that. What are just your overall thoughts on the Rangers team in general, just every aspect?
Well, I feel like the offense has, lived up to the expectations that you could have realistically had. I mean, so far, nothing that the Rangers have shown has been really surprising. I mean, I think we all kind of knew heading into the season that they're probably going to be an above-average scoring team, but their pitching, they just don't have the rotation there. I mean, all of their quality pitching depth is in the minors right now, with Jack Leiter and Cole Winn. So, and they're not going to be contributors until probably next season at the earliest. So this is kind of a gap year where, the Rangers are just, going through the motions basically with their rotation. But yeah, I mean, so far, nothing too surprising. I mean, I think the only thing that's been pretty concerning is Marcus Semien's slow start, but doing some research on that, he's basically a historically slow starter, so I'm not too concerned about that yet. And like I said, once again, the season's less than 2 weeks old, so whenever you go through these players' stats and it looks bad, the stats can be exaggerated because of how small these sample sizes are. So you just kind of have to wet it out, and give it about a month or so until you can start actually, take something out of these stats. Which is something I want to ask you, Diller. Do you have a specific date or a specific amount of games for you until you start taking, whether it's traditional stats or advanced analytics, until you start putting some weight on them in terms of all right, I guess this is just the type of season this guy's going to have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm already dealing with that with Gallo right now because I'm one of the few people who defends Gallo, even though Yankees fans have been, casting him aside, thinking he's a criminal and such like that. Think he's the worst baseball player on the planet, which they've also been doing with Aaron Hicks, by the way. If you know who Aaron Hicks is, really good guy who, walks a lot, high BB percentage, gets on base a lot. He does kind of have issues with runners in scoring position, but that's why you put him leadoff. He's a guy that can work out counts, get on base, high on base percentage, high BB percentage, low chase percentage, doesn't chase a lot, and just overall gets on base. But going back to Gallo, he's one of those guys that has been getting unlucky, and that is proven by all the times that his XBA or his expected batting average are realistically high, insanely high. Whenever it's a fly out. And that's the thing. I actually had somebody the other day, and I talked about this on my Yankee podcast, tell me that the reason that Joey Gallo is quote unquote failing or not doing well is because his launch angle's out of whack. And I was like, do you even know what stat you're talking about? You do realize that Joey Gallo's launch angle, his average launch angle is 23 degrees, which is a screaming line drive, basically. It's a line drive, cut and throw. And he's hitting the ball very hard every time. I mean, he's in the top percentages for hard hit percentage, Barrel percentage, he's obviously barreling up the baseball. He's just getting really bad luck. And there's just a certain point where it's obviously become comical how much he's gotten unlucky, but kind of answer your question, if that started happening for like half a season, if there was a point where someone got so unlucky where it was like a half of a season where you can't get anything done, and also you have to point out the fact that the shift is not going to the banning the shift is not going to take into account next year, which is something that you have to take in account. It's like how much better results would Gallo get if the whole entire infield isn't shifting to the right side of the field? Like once the shift is banned, how much better are Gallo's numbers going to be? And I guarantee you they're going to be significantly better. Gallo is going to be a dangerous human being. That's a guy that you're not going to want to face in the box, especially once the shift is banned. But, just kind of answer your question. It really just depends. Like, if it's a guy like Gallo or someone who's getting unlucky, kind of like Gary Sanchez has had a lot of period of time where he always barreled up the ball and stuff and would get unlucky. It really just depends. But if it's a guy who genuinely just doesn't hit the ball hard, doesn't hit line drives, constantly hit grounders and stuff, it takes a lot less time to decide whether, they're just going through the motions or not. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Falefa. And Falefa was a former Ranger. Falefa and Joey Gallo are not the same player. I mean, Gallo, high barrel percentage, high hard hit percentage and stuff. Falefa's not going to have that high, barrel percentage, high line drive percentage stuff. He's going to hit a lot of ground balls. They're significantly different players. And, not to, destroy Falefa or anything or talk down to him or anything. Good guy, and I hope he succeeds with the Yankees, obviously, because I'm, a Yankee fan. But he's not going to put up the type of numbers that Gallo will put up ever, and it won't even be particularly close. And it's not even because, he doesn't get the same benefit of the doubt like Gallo does, where it's like, oh, he's getting unlucky. There's no proof to show that a guy like Falefa would be getting unlucky. He's not hitting the ball hard. He's not hitting line drives or fly balls. He's constantly hitting the ball on the ground. And there's stats that prove that when you compare fly balls and line drives to grounders are significantly worse. If I'm not mistaken, you could take any season and the stats would all be similar. There'd be different numbers, but they would be similar in the sense that grounders are terrible and line drives and fly balls are bad. Or are good. Sorry, excuse me. They're good. But I'm pretty sure from like the 2021 season alone, the average player had about a 50 to 60 WRC plus, if not lower, which is way below league average for grounders. And then when you consider line drives and fly balls, they're like in the 200 and 300 range. So that's a significant difference. So I don't know if that really answered your question or not, but it just all depends on factors like, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. Are you hitting a lot of line drives? Gallo hits a lot of line drives and fly balls. Does it hit a ton of grounders, because that's not the name of his game. But, a guy that's a slap shot hitter, and even like a David Fletcher or something. Like Mike Trout and David Fletcher obviously are not the same player because, well, David Fletcher is kind of a below league average player in terms of WRC plus, and then Mike Trout's the best player in the game. But it's more in the sense that Trout elevates the ball a lot, and Fletcher doesn't. He just hits a lot of grounders. So,
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to mention in the podcast before we go ahead and call it a quits? Anything that you have found extremely entertaining over this first week of baseball?
Well, I just kind of want to talk about, well, it's not on the baseball field, but I just found it pretty interesting how the Pirates extended, Brian Reynolds and Brian Hayes basically back to back. I mean, the Pirates aren't really known for, extending its players. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Brian Hayes deal might be like the largest in Pirates history. So yeah, it's just a little wild seeing that, especially in Hayes' case where he signed an 80-year deal for $70 million. Basically going to buy his arbitration years. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild to see that considering he's played like less than a full season in 3 years. But I mean, I guess the Pirates are like super confident that Hayes is going to be a really good player for a really long time because I don't see why else you would, buy out someone's arbitration years and, hand him an extension like that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just really happy that they seem interested in winning for once. Trying to put together a squad to possibly, make the postseason or do some damage within the next few years or so if they can do that. It is the Pirates, so not going to get my hopes up with that. But I will say that I'm extremely happy for Brian Reynolds. I think Brian Reynolds is a guy that if they are very serious about wanting to win and keep their players, the players at least that are good, and then end up kind of making moves throughout the next few seasons, trade off, before the trade deadlines and then in the off season and during the winter. I think definitely keeping Brian Reynolds around for a while is going to help their chances, because that guy is just not a guy I want to face. He's extremely talented hitter, and I actually tweeted about that a while ago when there were rumors that the Pirates possibly might not be keeping Brian Reynolds around. And part of me was like, okay, that's good because he can finally go play for a team that's more competitive. But then there was a part of me that's like, why would the Pirates give up this player? I mean, he's one of those players that you just don't give up on. I'm not saying he's a Mike Trout or anything, but he is a very good player that if you want to win, you need to keep him around. You need to stick with him. If he wants to be in a Pirates uniform, of course, and I think it's become obvious that he does want to stay in Pittsburgh. But I'm very happy for Brian Reynolds. He's definitely a guy. If you don't watch the Pirates, if like you can ignore everything I say about the Pirates, with every other player, but if you can have one of those, I think Baseball Reference actually has one of those tools where it tells you when a certain batter is up to the plate. I would definitely put Brian Reynolds in that list if you want to do that, if you're interested, or just look on ESPN, keep track of Brian Reynolds before he's coming up to bat. He's definitely a guy you want to see. He's extremely underrated. I'm a big fan of his personally.
Yeah, I mean, his career OPS plus is 128, and it's been outside. I'm not including this season because he's only played 7 games, but in his first 3 seasons, I mean, his OPS plus was 130, 146, and in 2020 it was 71. But I don't really know. It's really hard to take any of the 2020 stats seriously because of such a small sample size, because it being just a 60-game season, along with just the COVID protocols and all that. It's just a weird year overall. So I'm not putting a ton of stock in that 71 OPS plus. But yeah, in his 2 other full-time seasons, he's been one of the better hitters, and like you said, one of the more underrated players in the sport.
Real quick before we go ahead and wrap this podcast up, has there been anyone that you've really been interested in this season? Someone that you think is pretty underrated that doesn't get enough attention besides Brian Reynolds, because we've already talked about him.
Oh man, I mean, I can't really think of anybody, but the fact that it's pretty late probably has a lot to do with that. What about you, Dillard?
Right off the bat, I'd definitely say Chris Taylor. I'm still trying to buy
Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
You think he's underrated? I feel like Chris Taylor is a household name at this point.
Oh no, no. Like, if you're a Dodgers fan, you appreciate Chris Taylor. I mean, Dodgers fans don't consider Chris Taylor underrated because they like the guy. They wanted the guy to stick around for a while, and for good reason. But I don't know. I still see countless time and time again where he still doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And even a bigger name, even a guy like a Jose Ramirez, I think even Jose Ramirez is still incredibly underrated. I mean, even though he continuously has great after great season, multiple MVP caliber seasons and stuff, J-Ram doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves. And, kind of side topic, but I'm happy the Guardians are keeping him around. And it's obvious that he wants to be there, and I'm happy for the Guardians that they're willing to give him a shot, and they still want to compete with the core that they have and stuff like that.
Yeah, Jose Ramirez, he's probably like another one of those super underrated guys who doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to the best hitters in the sport. I mean, just look through his WAR collection. I mean, he's had 6.9 in 2017, 7.9 in 2018. He had a little bit of a dip in 2019 and 2020, and then he bounced back last season with 6.7 WAR. I mean, those are like franchise player type of numbers.
I mean, he's one of those guys that if it's like games on the line, you need to score a runner in, that's not a guy that you want to face in that situation. Like, that's a guy that you're just like, I don't have any clue how I'm going to pitch around this guy. because he's just that good of a hitter that can cover every quadrant of the plate.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that's it, everyone that has watched our podcast. Hopefully all of you guys enjoyed it as much as Clemente and I enjoyed doing them. If you guys haven't subscribed already, make sure you do and click that bell notification so you don't miss a video. Like, comment, and we will see you guys later.